Hello, this is Gene. I just want to talk a little bit about a couple of channels I've been watching recently. Hopefully, most of the people on here probably already watch these channels. One is really woke, let's say, or aware of everything that's going on, and he talks about it every day, and that's Red Elephant, and I'll put the information down below. He's very popular on YouTube. He's got more than, I think, any other quote-unquote what considered an alt-right race realism type of channel has. He has over 100,000 subscribers. The other one is Geeks and Gamers. And the guy that runs that, his name is Jeremy. And I just want to talk about these two guys because one of them is a moderate when it comes to things like this. I think he's aware, but he doesn't really want to tarnish his brand, so he won't go enough into those areas. He is very outspoken on his channel. He basically says, his opinion is what it is, and he always has these caveats that he's going to say something stupid before he got on the video, and maybe after he might say something after the video that's stupid. He's probably conservative, I guess. He's a guy who voted for Trump. I want to do is maybe compare these two guys and where they look at some of the more important things in our world right now. I believe that Jeremy's a little bit older than the guy that helms Red Elephants, although he said he'd been married. The guy at Red Elephants has been married for 13 years, so if he was 19 or 9, so he'd be in his 30s, so he's at Generation X. And Jeremy, I think, is a little bit older than that. I think he's in his mid-30s. So they're basically from the same generation within a couple of years. I think that the guy that helms Red Elephants was very similar to Jeremy probably a year ago, because if you look at his channel, he was very conservative, a pro-Trump guy, talking about SJWs, feminism, and stuff like that. And Jeremy still talks about that. And it's that journey that you go. And I used to say this on my channel, that at the top of that rabbit hole, this fictional rabbit hole, although it's not really, the top of that rabbit hole that I've talked about is you start talking about the SJW stuff, or most modern stuff, feminism, stuff like that, and the pay gap, white privilege, all that stuff. So you talk about that, and most people stay up there. They don't want to go further down there, because then you have to try to find out who's actually behind a lot of this stuff, the agenda that's behind it. And that goes to places that a lot of guys don't want to go. Mostly, no women really wants to go down there. Even the most popular women on YouTube that talk about this stuff, they don't really want to go and talk about the Jewish question and the influence that parts of the society, or Jewish society, has in the West. And and there are topics that we can't talk about online, because you will feel the wrath of saying things like this. But it's just interesting to see, because I really would, if you go back and just look at their channels, and Jeremy's starting to get some traction. So he's got like 73,000 subscribers, and a lot of that was, he was talking about Star Wars and how SJW it's been. But once you start doing this stuff, and I think Jeremy probably has gone down that, and he's probably seen this stuff. But then he said something on Twitter the other day, because he was having a little, I'm not going to say he was being attacked by people online, but he was responding. And as he probably gets more famous, he may not do that. I'm not going to say famous, but more popular. He probably shouldn't really respond to people or trolls or whatever. And I'm not saying that just because you respond, because I do it. I'm not trolling people. If somebody said something I think is wrong and I respond to them, I'm not trolling them. I'm trying to say, hey, maybe you should look at this in a different way. You wouldn't say that if you were of that race, let's say. And I think that he is at that position right now where he's starting his channel's getting big enough, but I think that he doesn't really have to do anything else, that it somewhat supports his life. And it's hard at that point to go further down that rabbit hole. So it's one of those things, just because I think the guy that's on Red Elephants has more of the right beliefs and topics, doesn't mean I respect him any more than Jeremy, because Jeremy is one of the small amount of people online that calls out SJWs, and there are about, but let's say 20 or 30 of them. And these people are continually flagged if you say something about like this, and they take away his ability to maybe have a living. One of the other guys out there is an illustrator, Ethan Vance Skyver, who's another Trump supporter, and he was basically ostracized from the comic book industry. So he got enough popularity on YouTube that he had enough fans that support him. Now he got like half a million for $500,000 to do his own comic. And that's nice that we're seeing that, and he can still do this. But everybody that has this type of thought process, I mean, when he's talking about James Gunn and the pedophilia stuff that's going on with that, he doesn't really go deep into that, but he talks about things like that that leads to that, that when you have enough support or subscribers, someone is going to try to take you down. So he's got about the same amount of subscribers as Jeremy, and Red Elephant has over 100,000. These guys are similar when it comes to their subscriber count, their reach, let's say. And Ethan gets a lot of money. A lot of people give him money on the line through the chats, and I think the guy from Red Elephant gets that as well, and which is good. I mean, there should be something else than the normal mainstream liberal progressive stuff. But as somebody who is more aware, let's say, or has allowed himself to go further down that rabbit hole, I said that I used to thought that the end of that rabbit hole, the bottom of that, is alt-right. But as I said before, I don't really consider myself alt-right. I don't think that what, like Jeremy said, is that the far right is just as bad as the far left. And this is the issues that I have with him, because I don't think advocating for your race or your culture is either right or left. You might say because if you're a conservative, it seems that you want to protect and conserve your race or your heritage, so maybe that's right, but that would be like modern right. That would be like right, mainstream right should be that, because every other culture does this. There's no, you're an extremist person because you want to protect the West or the majority's culture or heritage. That should be like mainstream stuff. So I don't look at the fact that makes people who believe that race is real, that there's differences between the races when it comes to the group, that's far right. I think that's common sense. Now, obviously, there are factions in the alt-right which are what I might say might be racist. They say things online, and again, they could be trolls, but they say things that are racist, and that's not going to further the cause. I think at the end of the day, either we just allow the horde to come in and take over the West, and we just let this happen, or we submit and become Muslim or whatever, or we're going to stand up. And at some point, guys like Jeremy and Ethan are going to end up with guys like Red Elephant and myself, or my kids. I probably won't be around. I'm a little bit older than those guys, even though I'm at Generation X, but I'm a very old one. I'm like one of the oldest guy in it. You know, these guys are about 12 years younger than me, probably. I think Ethan's over 40 now, so I think me and Ethan is closer. But he's also at Generation X. And these are probably the last generation that had real testosterone flowing through their veins. And we're trying to instruct guys that are in their 20s to wake up, and a lot of them are. Thank God that the internet is there, and we still have a forum to say stuff like this. But guys like that are starting to get this reach really needs to get together. If Ethan can get over $500,000 to produce a comic, then we should be able to get our own platforms or places that are going to be favorable to free speech and allow people to have a better voice than I would have, that has more talent or ideas, creativity to talk about what's really important. We got to get past who's really the alt-right. I think like I said, that idea is probably not the issue. The issue is preserving the West, understanding what the West really means, that a race of people created the West. We created a lot of things that the rest of the world just basically takes for granted. And there's ways that we can improve this. People are going to say, Gene, you're talking about civic nationalism. The problem is we don't have any civics in this country. So if we actually started talking about our history and we started applauding the greatness of the West, then at least some of these people will be waking up to this and say, why am I feeling guilty because I'm white? Because my ancestors, maybe one of them did something bad. But everything is based, you have to look at what was really going on at that point. People are not born, quote unquote, racist, but they have an in-group preference. Baby studies have been done this forever that shows that if you put a mixed group of babies in a room together, or if you want them to play with toys, boys go to places where they build stuff and girls do what they do where they care for things. And people who are white, even though babies don't really understand that, they start navigating to people that look more like them. Now, obviously, if they've never seen themselves, they have to look themselves up, so they have to know who they are. So maybe not newborn, but toddler age, they know this, and they start grouping with their people. Now, there's a whole philosophy, a theory that says that if we mix all the races, that'll eradicate racism. And that is probably the most stupidest thing in the world. It's part of this whole postmodern thought that says that this is going to work. People will find something different about you. Your eyes are more wide or too slanted, or your ears are too high. You're going to find a way that you can be with somebody else. Or if you're a Christian, I mean, all this stuff, there's going to be a reason to delineate ourselves. It's not, but talking about to advocate for a culture isn't racist, and every other culture is allowed to do this, and more people are waking up to this. And I think both at that level, I think that Jeremy and Ethan understands that, but they're not willing at this point to go further down. And I'm not asking them to do that, but I don't want to hear them say things like the far right is a problem, because when he's saying stuff like that, basically he's talking about somebody like me that's saying there are differences between the groups. We should do something about that. Whether you want to say it's DNA or genetic, or if you want to say that there's environment. The people in the West, the people that built the West, have been trying for a long time to try to help that, to make it better in places so people can get out of that. There's a reason why 99.9% of the people in Africa never left. You know, they had that didn't allow your brain to actually expand. All they did was stay in their areas. They didn't explore anything like that. A small sect of them did, but all their improvements really came after Europeans or maybe Asians came in and conquered their lands. And when you're talking about history, we should talk about all of it. And what I like that Red Helmet does is he brings it all out. He says, because we've been shamed since I've been alive, that white people are the ones that are bad, and we did slavery and all this shit. And then if you just open up and you look at history, you realize that we stopped it, and we weren't the purveyors of it the most. It was other people. But those people don't want to take any responsibility for that. They don't. They think that they're oppressed, and they think that everybody basically they don't want to be responsible at all for their actions. And what really got me excited is to see the guy from Red Elephant, and I don't know his name. But he said that the same mantra that I've been saying for probably the last 4 or 5 years on my channel is that nobody's going to look at you as the same. I can tell you that as a white man, I'm not going to say from a supremacist idea that says I'm better than you race to race. I'm not going to say that. But if I don't see as a group taking responsibility for your actions, I have no respect for you as a group dynamic. Obviously, individual black person or Hispanic person came up to me and is responsible or takes care of his family, things like that, I will judge them. I hate to say judge, but you look at them, at their characters, and say you're a good person, a good person in your community, and we hope that community that you're involved in the community. Unfortunately, a lot of guys that are like that are very responsible, are called some of the worst things in the world, like Uncle Tom or whatever that, or you're trying to be like a white man. And so you expect me to consider what you believe to be at the same level as what I believe in the West. And it's hard for me to believe that. At some point, we got to stop as a society just giving money and money and money for this, and have to allow them guys, what, even in the white community, we have to allow them to have responsibility for what their actions are. And I'm glad that he's talking about that. So he is seeing guys probably 500 times more than I would see. He gets 30 or 40 or 50 or 60,000 views. So this is red billing a lot of people, and that's a good thing. But also the issue is, you look at his comments, there's a lot of, I would consider somewhat racist, what they're talking about. Just because you say, look, we've noticed this, that you have a large violence or murder, much more per capita than the white race or culture or whatever. It's not saying everybody, okay? And we just can't just group everybody, saying because the statistics say this. There are reasons for it, and we've tried for a lot of the white people have been trying to, I guess, pay back whatever we did, but it's not worked. And he talks about this, that the family in the 60s, even as bad as it was for the black families, they were at 6% unemployment. They had the fathers in the homes. They were doing pretty well. They had businesses, and then the left tried to say, no, it's all their fault. Get them, and it just destroyed everything. It took away all of their responsibility, their motivation to do anything, and then you put us a picture of a white guy saying he's the problem, and that just doesn't do anything. And I don't look at black people as a problem when I talk about white issues. I don't look at Hispanic people. I look at our people and say we still have the majority. I'm not saying that we should go in and just say this area is supposed to be for white people. I'm talking about we have the ability, and again, people are going to say you're being cucky, but we have the ability to say immigration is going to be stopped, full stop. And if we have anybody coming in, it's going to be come from Europe, and they're going to be white Europeans. That's it, and they have to be here for merit stuff. And there should be a huge reformation in public education from the elementary to secondary, and public universities had to have a reformation as well. We need to purge public universities. Private, you can do what you want, but the people that the taxpayers pay for, they go in and they need to get all this Marxist bullshit out. It could be elective, and it could be a minority on campus, and because we believe in free speech, so they should have the ability to talk about something like this. But we need to get away from the sociology degrees, and we need to start training our guys, and especially guys, to get back to college or trade school, in trade schools, in engineering, chemistry, and stuff like that, to be where we used to be. It wasn't that long ago that we were right at the top in everything. So it's all related. And we can sit there and blame the Jews, and we can sit there and blame black people or Hispanic people and stuff like that, but we still have the power. The problem is, white people have this, we don't just vote in, we have the ability to go both sides of it. We're not hive mind so much that we go 90% to one party all the time. We are still 50-50 on both, and it really depends how much of the black vote you can get. So it's the demographics. A lot of white people. The future is not great, let's say, and maybe Trump is the last stop till we go to whatever it's going to go. But if we waken up enough of people, and maybe we have another party that comes out, whatever that would be, people, Western, something, I don't know, that we might actually do something. And I've been talking way too much. Anyway, I just want to talk about those three guys. I'm going to link down one of their videos. Red Elephant, way down there, way with me. Me and him are like same everything. I'm with him, and he says it very well. So you can come to this channel and talk about the alt-right or something like that, but he talks about it much more, he talks better than I do, obviously with my stroke and all that. But he's the type of guy that's going to red pill hundreds of thousands of people. So I think he's a great person. The other guys, they have good content. You should go ahead and watch it anyway. They have chats that you can talk to. I think Jeremy has a sports thing. You can talk to him, and that's a lot smaller fan base, so you might be able to get some information in there. The thing with Jeremy is that he knows a lot of people that come from other communities, so he doesn't want to be ostracized because he might talk about white issues, let's say. But the problem is, and I think a lot of people are starting to understand this, what happened with Alex Jones being deplatformed, it's happened to people who talk like me online that had some sort of following. They've been censored well before Alex Jones. And guys like Jeremy and Ethan, and I think they know this, is that they're next in line because they say things that are not part of the PC mainstream. And whether they want to talk about the stuff I talk about, which is more down that rabbit hole, they're going to be still part of the purge at some point. And hopefully they have enough money and enough fan base that if something happens, they'll be fine because they have good content. And also, I think Ethan, Sam, whatever his name, and I'll put his information below as well. All these guys are good guys. They're all going to be the type of guys we need to teach our younger guys, and so we can move on and make the West better. Anyway, thank you for watching. You guys have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.